Memoirs of Sheikh Muhammad Ali Modirian, founder of the first modern-style school in Khorasan, Iran. All images and videos are fictional and unrelated to the people and places mentioned. Part 3, The Art of Deception, When Thieves and Soldiers Unite. Every government would give 1,000 tomans as a reward to provinces, only to take back twice as much from the people. And those who refused, they were beaten with sticks. During the rule of Reza Koli Khan, the son-in-law of the governor summoned my father. He was ordered to take charge of the Diwani grain and store it in his warehouse. But my father refused. If you do not accept, they warned, you must pay a fine of 50 tomans. When he still resisted, they issued a cruel order. Imprison him or he must pay. That day, my father was chained. No plea, no bribe, no mediator could change their minds. In Tarshish, we struggled to gather 50 tomans. My father owned land, livestock, and a home, yet even with high credit, we couldn't raise the money. Finally, we were forced to sell household goods in Mashhad. The money we received, barely enough. At that time, new coins had just been introduced. One Shahi was worth 20 pieces of one Quran. A half Shahi was 40 pieces of one Quran. A Rabi'i was 80 pieces of one Quran. A silver Rabi'i had 4 pieces of one Quran. And a white Shahi, 6 pieces of one Quran. As time passed, old Jandaks disappeared and the Rabi'i, once worth 80 pieces, became the most valued currency. Until the year 1883, I attended school in Tarshish, but in the end, I left that school. Illiterate. Not just me, many others like me. Then, at 16 years old, my life took another turn. One of our relatives, a local sheriff, had 300 tomans in unpaid taxes. When he failed to pay, they stormed his house and took everything. But that wasn't enough. A fine of 150 tomans remained, and they decided to take it from his relatives. They came for me. They seized my father. They grabbed my collar. You must pay this fine, they demanded. At 16, I was handcuffed and placed under the watch of 2 merciless gunmen. They chained my neck with a heavy iron shackle and demanded food from me every night, demanded 2 tomans a day as a fine. One of them even pretended to be my friend, yet this friend demanded tobacco from me daily. For 40 days, I remained in their grip. I struggled to describe the cruelty I witnessed. These gunmen, they were different from today's. They would leave their village empty-handed and barefoot on donkeys, but return from the city with mules loaded with goods and gold. They had no shame. At night, they entered homes, stealing whatever was valuable. And the poor, if they dared to complain to the government, no one listened. And in the end, they regretted even trying. On that day, a pilgrim from a Nogan neighborhood of Mashhad bought a Kabuli fur coat for 2 tomans. But before he could even enjoy it, the gunman snatched it from his shoulders in broad daylight. Helpless, the pilgrim went to Hamza Mirsu, the head of the province, and begged for justice. But the response? Man, you should be warm. The gunner is cold. Defeated, Haji returned home. But Haji had a neighbor, a man feared by many. A thief, but not just any thief. His name was Hussein Gyro. When Haji told him what happened, Hussein grinned. Don't worry, Haji, he said. I'll bring back your fur coat. That night, Hussein moved in silence, dressed in dark clothes, gripping 2 wooden sticks. He made his way to Arg Square, stopping at the gunner's room. Where's Ashraf the gunner? He asked. They laughed. He's drinking at someone's home, they replied. Hussein didn't hesitate. He knocked on the door of the home, demanding Ashraf return Haji's coat. The gunners ignored him. So Hussein broke the door down and stepped inside. 40 gunmen, 1 Hussein. The room reeked of wine and arrogance. The drunken men stumbled toward him, ready to fight. But they underestimated him. With 2 sticks, Hussein put them all to sleep, one by one. He walked upstairs, found the fur coat draped over Ashraf's shoulder, and snatched it back. With the coat in hand, he returned to Nogan, knocked on Haji's door, and handed it over. Here, no one steals from my neighborhood. By morning, the gunmen were furious. They gathered a crowd and marched toward Nogan, ready for revenge. But Hussein was waiting, alongside two loyal comrades. He stood in their path, 3 men against an army of gunmen. The fight began. Sticks clashed. Shouts echoed. Blood stained the dirt. They fought and fled, leading the gunmen out of the city gates. And then in the square, Hussein and his men turned to face them one last time. With one final strike, the 3 leaders of the gunmen fell. Ashraf and 2 others were dragged to a deep well. They begged, they pleaded, "Spare us. As long as we live, we won't harm the pilgrims of Nogan." Hussein looked down at them. "You are unjust men," he said. "I have been a thief for 40 years. But I have never been unjust, except to those who cross me. I have never harmed a family, never terrified children. If you want to steal," Hussein continued, "I'll show you the right way to do it." The gunmen, broken and desperate, agreed. That night, Hussein welcomed them into his world. He feasted with them, serving roasted sheep at his home. Then, in the dead of night, he led them to Rabat Turk, a grand monument from the time of Shah Abbas, 2 farsakhs from Mashhad. That night, under the moonlit sky of Rabat Turk, the true master of deception revealed himself. The trade caravans from Bandar Abbas to Mashhad were loaded with precious goods, silks, spices, and treasures. And the gunmen, now under Hussein Gyro's command, were ready to strike. But their leader? He didn't just steal, he became the shadow of the night itself. Like a cunning wolf, Hussein moved low to the ground, his body twisted, one leg raised like a dog's tail. He crawled between the piled bales of goods, unseen, unheard. One by one, he lifted the heavy bundles, 40 in total, onto his back, distributing them to the waiting gunmen. "Each of you, take one and follow me." Silently, they set off for Mount Kalaj. Their path was steep, their mission clear. By dawn, the stolen goods lay hidden in the valley, buried beneath rock and shadow. And by sunrise, they returned to their homes, invisible ghosts of the night. As long as Hussein Gyro ruled Mashhad, the gunmen were loyal. They followed him without question. And their crimes? Too many to count, too many to tell. But one thing was certain, with Hussein in charge, their hands were never empty. Hussein Gyro was more than a thief. He was a strategist, a survivor, and a master of deception. His ability to turn enemies into allies showcased his cunning. But in today's world, collusion takes on new forms between nations in secret deals, economic pacts, and political maneuvers. History may change, but the art of deception remains.